What up, kiddies? Welcome to another maybe fun, may not be fun episode of Isles Talk here. I'm your host, Paul Kreischer, tonight. Joining me are three very knowledgeable hockey fans, and I consider them all friends. Gary on the occasion. Welcome, everyone. First, Gary
Where's my
Harding.
Where's my check?
It'll come in the mail later, but it's addressed to Claire, the inventor of everything Islanders social media. Also joining us this evening, Gil Martin of the Locked On Islanders podcast and author of Ice Wars, the complete story of New York's greatest modern sports rivalry. There we go. Welcome, Gil.
Homework.
Yeah, I did my homework. I had to. And last but not least, certainly not least, a very close friend of mine. She was actually one of my first guests.
Yeah.
Back at the 2019 draft. And we were talking about the draft. We were talking about Robin Lehner. And she is one person who you can really have a hockey conversation for hours and you won't even know it was that long. Kim Moisa, Isles Girl 3, one of my favorites. I will be having her on more often. Welcome to the show, Kimmy.
Thanks, Paul. What's up, man?
So here we go, folks. What's up, guys? I am going to start off first with remembering an Islanders legend. Clark Gillies recently passed away from cancer at a very young age, part of the Islanders dynasty. He was the first true power forward, at least for me. But I'm going to hand the mic over to both Gary and Gil because I really want to know, what did Clark Gillies, the player, first? What did he mean for you two?
Gilly, you can go first.
Okay, no. Clark Gillies was an amazing, versatile kind of a player in the sense, he was a power forward before they really coined that term. And, he was physical. He was big. You think back to the famous Trio Grand line with Brian Trottier and Gillies and Mike Bossy. And, Gillies added size. He added grit. He could also always put the puck in the net. And he was really very big, for that era. But as much as he was a very good fighter, he didn't like to drop the gloves. But you messed with him at your own peril. And some of the fights that he had, one I remember against the Flyers back in, I think it was 76, 75. 2 or 3 fights he had with Terry O'Reilly during the 1980 playoff series that were just momentum, really, and helped lead the Islanders to their first Stanley Cup. He took out, I think it was Ed Hospodar of the Rangers in one punch and just, really beat him. But he didn't like to fight, but he certainly would defend his teammates. And one of the reasons that Mike Bossy was able to be so effective, had enough room to do a lot of the things they knew were there, and you messed with Bossy at your own peril. But he was a clutch player, scored the first game-winning goal in Islanders playoff history. Game 1 preliminary series against the Rangers. That was a great game. Islanders were down 2-0 after 2 periods, tied it with 2 goals in the third, and then late in the third, Gillies got the game winner, and he was a rookie then, so that was sort of his big coming out moment. And just a clutch guy, a guy who could both put the puck in the net, be physical when he needed to, was responsible defense, and really was more, you look at his statistics and you're like, well, maybe borderline Hall of Fame kind of a thing. But if you watched him play, you know why he's in the Hall.
Yeah, for sure. And just tagging on some of the things, that Gil said,
the thing that caught my eye, and I didn't know this until recently, actually, when I went on Hockey TV, that, being that prototypical power forward, you look at some of the contemporaries, some of the guys maybe in the 90s, like a Rick Tocchet, say, or a Kevin Stevens, that type of a player. They got the goals, they got the points, but they also racked up a lot of PIMs. You look at Clark Gillies' career, not 1 year in his career did he ever eclipse 100 penalty minutes in a season. I mean, and that's the type of guy he was. He played his game, but for all intents and purposes, he played it the right way. He played hard. He played tough. Most players were scared, what-less, when he was on the ice with you, but he played it the right way. And that's a lot of the comments that I saw from a lot of his contemporaries and the like, that, he was such a dramatic player and forever changed a role, in professional hockey these days. I mean, like I said, they called him the first prototypical power forward. And to me, he is the mold on which that position is made from.
Does he have the success without someone like Trottier or Bossy? Like, does he still become that power forward, or could he play with basically any center, any winger, and he could still be that Clark Gillies?
I think that's a two-way street. I don't know if Clark Gillies puts up the offensive numbers without playing with, some great offensive players like Trottier and Bossy, but I don't know if they put up the same numbers without him either. So I think that's a two-way street. And I know, if necessary, he could play a number of different styles if he needed to. But putting him on that line, that Trio Grand line was so hard to stop and so difficult to slow down. They had such a great mix of skills. Trottier could move the puck very well, pass the puck very well. Gillies could shoot and be physical, and arguably the best goal scorer, best pure goal scorer in the history of hockey. So, you put that threesome together, and it's very hard for him to try to stop that Islanders line and that Islanders team.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, just saying, I agree.
Carey.
If you put Gillies on Butch Goring's line, maybe Butch's helmet gets a little bit more protected, but but I don't think the numbers would have been the same. I mean, there was just an incredible chemistry between the three of them. It's almost sometimes I'd almost say it was almost Soviet-like. They knew where everyone was going, where each other were going to be, and was in the right places at the right times. And that's something, again, us, Gil and I growing up in the, in the 70s and 80s, we watched the Russian game of that era. And again, they weren't passing to a person, they were passing to a spot. And I think those guys sometimes exuded that quite well. Trotz was obviously amazing, with his vision, and Clarkie had a lot of it as well. And it never really got the documentation and the success that it should have been. I mean, Clark had his role, but he did so many things well as all three of them. And like I said, when they were together, that, like, as Gil said, the chemistry was just absolutely amazing.
Now, Gary, I wanted to ask you something, because this is what crossed my mind. I mean, I didn't know that Clark Gillies was sick. And when he passed, it was a big shock. And I think part of it, the fact that he was such a part of the when we were growing up and we were in our teenage years, have you, it was like, how could Clark Gillies die? He was so big and so strong and so always there, both on the ice and in the community. It was like a shock to me. It was like, if Clark Gillies could die, all of us could die, because it was just hard for me to take in when I first heard the news.
Yeah. Again, you hear a lot of more information subsequent to what happened. And he, he had a prostate situation a couple of years before, and it was taken care of. And you know, and he looked, the last few interviews that I saw, obviously, with the opening of UBS, there was a couple of other ones that have been circulating around. He actually looked pretty good. A lot of times, these big guys, when they, get out of the league or get out of their sport, they somehow, don't, I don't want to say mature better, but, their older age, they get, in a good shape and a good frame of physical fitness, and Clark always exuded that, because we all know he was a scratch golfer. He played golf all the time, was very active, and you thought, as you would suspect, as you said, Gil, you think these guys are going to be immortal, and it's just it was a complete shock. I mean, we didn't go. I know Kimmy was at the game, right? We didn't go to that game, but when we kept seeing those rumors pop out on Twitter and all the other places, it's just like, no, it just can't be. It just can't be. We're hearing all this stuff, and then all of a sudden I get a Facebook notification from Jiggs McDonald saying an announcement's coming. I'm like, oh my God. It's like, how can that be? But it was a sad day, but at least in this opportunity with you guys, it's a chance to really, again, celebrate the great man that he was. And again, I'm sure we're going to get into it. It's not just what he did, inside that 17,000 square feet of ice, but it was where he did all around this community, making, his second home, his real home. And, I think he should be better known for more of the things he did outside of hockey than he did inside of it.
Every time in hospital, the Clark Gillies wing, pediatric wing, his legacy will be on Long Island, especially, will be more than just what he did on the ice, and that, and everybody, because of him, knows where Moose Jaw is.
Yes.
6 feet from the butt.
There you go.
Kimmy, your thoughts on Clark Gillies?
Clark Gillies, I mean, obviously I didn't have the privilege of seeing him playing, and it stings being a younger generation not being able to have seen these legends play, but luckily having access to, internet nowadays, getting to see footage of them playing, I see what you guys are talking about. And growing up, my mom would tell me stories of, especially Clark Gillies, especially about the Terry O'Reilly stories, because she hated Terry O'Reilly. So she told me how he kicked butt when needed, but he also was just a pure forward, like just absolute, so reliable on the ice, how amazing he played. And like you said, the chemistry, how good a chemistry that he had with his line mates. And I had just talked to him the month before. He was with Shannon Hogan at UBS, and when you walk in to the left, Shannon Hogan is right there with the cameras and everything. I really like that. I think that's really cool that the fans get to watch and chill with Shannon like they did. Like, we got to go downstairs and see her at Barclays and stuff like that. But I saw Gillies there, and so I was standing there like, oh my God, but I got to speak with him one-on-one, and he honestly, just talking with him as a person, we talk about the amazing things, on the ice, but off the ice, the person he was off the ice is just as impeccable as the career he had on. And just talking with ice, I told him about what my mom told me. I was like, my mom said how you always kicked butt, and he's like, only when they deserved it. He's like, only when they deserved it, and I was like, of course.
That's right.
But he just let me talk about, he had just the biggest smile on his face, and he goes, I really appreciate everything you're saying. I thank you so much. And I also, because I was a nursing student at the time, and I had a clinical at Huntington Hospital, and I was sitting there waiting for my professor, and I looked on the wall and it said Clark Gillies Foundation. I was like, what? Things that, should be shared more. We were talking about things he did, on Long Island that should be shared more. And I didn't even know about his foundation. I didn't know about his contributions to Huntington Hospital, and, getting to work in a hospital, see the contribution he made to it. It just was impeccable. And I thanked him for it. He said, you don't know how much that means to me. Thank you. And that's when I took the picture with him, not, obviously not knowing what was to come. And it, after the Arizona game, coming in the car, and you turned on Chris King, and hearing him announce the news, hearing Shannon even talk about it, just hit you right in the gut. Absolutely.
I only have a couple of rare moments with Clark, in all honesty, when you're at the tailgates, he's walking around, you literally give him a drink, and the first thing you ask are, how's the family? It was a hook, line, and sinker. He comes over, he starts talking about his family. He asked about your family, and he was everyone. He represented everyone. He represented Long Island. He was you. You were him. It wasn't necessarily Clark Gillies, the hockey player. It was Clark Gillies, the family man. And that's one of the special moments that I will remember from Clark. Not just the playing days, but Clark, the family man. So our hearts and our condolences go out to the Clark Gillies family, and we wish them all the best, and Clark will forever be in our hearts. So moving on now. I guess we have to get into it, boys and girls. The Islanders have been showing some inconsistencies as of late. They haven't been playing bad per se, but they're having a tough time beating some really good teams. Yeah. So let's talk about that. Gil, I was listening to your show this morning. You feel that the goalies are still inconsistent, letting in some soft goals and whatnot. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, I mean, if you look back at the Barry Trotz era, the Islanders win typically a fairly low-scoring game to the time, and they win. They're usually outshot, but they usually don't give up too many quality chances. And when they do, the goalie has to come up big and sort of shine. And what we've been seeing is a little less of that good team defense, a few more turnovers, a few more quality scoring chances, and then a few more soft goals by the goalies. And unfortunately, that's how you turn a 3-2 win into a 4-3 or a 3-2 loss. Up those soft goals at the wrong moment. So it's a little bit frustrating. I mean, I think there are reasons for it. You talk about Simeon Varlamov injured throughout training camp, not starting the season on time, sort of having to play his way back into game shape or game form. Maybe as far as Ilya Sorokin is concerned, it's just been maybe the last 2 or 3 games that I've seen that more from him. Maybe he's a little bit tired at this point after carrying the load. But the Islanders, the way they play hockey, they need their goalie to be outstanding at the right time, and they haven't been getting that, especially against good teams lately.
Gary?
He's right on point. Just watching the replays and come after coming home after the games and seeing some of those very soft goals. It's just un-Ilya-like, especially the last 3 or 4 games. I mean, he's made some incredible stuff, but when he lets a soft one in, it's a real softie. I attribute a lot to the fact, obviously, that this defensive core, has not been in full sync since pretty much the end of November, middle of November, actually. That's right. I was in Tampa when Pulak broke his foot. So you're talking now that's 10 weeks without the regular core. And that's going to affect, it's going to affect the goaltending to some point, but, looking at the standings and looking at, what this team has been going through, yes, they can beat those Arizonas and lower level teams, but I was it like 2-13 against teams that are currently in a playoff position right now. That's not going to get you anywhere. And despite, what Paul and I have talked about in the past about, the Eastern Conference numbers of the top 8 that are so absorbently high, that are obviously due to come down. And we know they're probably going to, but You're sitting right now at 15, 16, and 6. At this stage of the game, you've got to have one of those 17 game winless winning streaks in order to get yourself relevant in the standings again. And these next 3 weeks going with 2 West Coast trips are going to be, we always know they're crucial and they're always kind of tough for this team to play through, but this is going to be the most important trip in the last, basically in the last 5 years. If they don't come out, doing the unthinkable and, coming out of there maybe 8-1 or 7-2 on those 9 games, you can honestly say, don't worry about playoff tickets this year because you ain't going to see them.
Kimmy, give me your thoughts on the Isles' inconsistencies.
Yeah, inconsistencies. We started on goaltenders. Yeah, Varley and Sorokin have both made soft goals in these past few games. Both of them just are having a rough time out there. Yeah, defense hasn't been up to the par that we, usually keep. We just have like a stature for our defense, and it hasn't been totally up there all the time. I mean, just like last night with Dobson, like he just stopped the puck right in front of the net, here you go. like just things like that where it's not, we're just not in the best situations sometimes defensively, but also with goaltending. I think we have to change tactics here. Go to the Al Arbor tactic. Whoever's hot stays in the net. I like you have Ilya Sorokin that comes off a shutout, and then it's like, okay, Varley in. No, he only had 17 saves that night against Arizona, something very small.
Mm-hmm.
And he was feeling good, he's feeling good after that game, and then you let him sit, and then you put in Varlamov, and the team just died in front of him. It's semi-part, the whole team, I don't know, this team has a vibe. And you know what, Lou said, we win together as a team, and it really is true, because I don't know what Islanders I'm going to get each night, because there was the game against Toronto, and where it just the whole team, it looked like I was like, does anyone want to play tonight? They where I was on the ice saying there was not one player who I thought, gave it their all, or it just looked flat. And each period, I don't know what's going on back there, but it's like nothing could get moving. No energy could get started. But then you have against just yesterday against Minnesota, and I would say those first 5 minutes, exact same start. Nothing, just flat. They looked like they just were just skating around, taking their time, and then obviously Minnesota took advantage. They took advantage, and they got two quick goals on us in the first 5 minutes. After those first 5 minutes, I don't know what clicked, but finally you started to see the Islanders that, they play their game. They got how many 43 shots on net. That's the season high for them right now. And they started to click. They played their butts off last night, and I thought it was a good game by them. But it was cost by a first 5 minutes. Just a little bit of that low energy of this team, and it's collectively every single line plays that same way. I don't know who kicks it off. I don't know what gets them into gear, but it's just I don't know why sometimes it just doesn't click, and sometimes it's an on and off situation with them. I don't know if it's the goaltender in the net. I don't know if it was because they got, physically, like the Wild started pushing, shoving us physically, maybe it is a little bit about physicality. Get them mad. I've seen, we talk about against the Flyers when we had that back-to-back, Zdeno Chara comes around, started a fight, got the, put the knocks off. He got a little mad. We tie the game, we win in a nine-round shootout, but it's still a win. Maybe this team just has to get a little mad, has to get, just feel like they won.
I'm going to add a different salt to this wound. Gary had mentioned the 2-13 record against playoff teams. I don't completely buy that record, because number one, there were at least 5 or 6 of those games where we were losing to playoff teams, and we were the Bridgeport Islanders. That was completely unfair to begin with. And at some point, the NHL is going to have to throw us a bone for maybe an all-star game earlier on or whatnot. We'll see. I know, Kim. It was humor. Okay. The other issue that the Islanders are having, not only are these teams going to the playoffs, but they're on a hot streak. For example, the Toronto Maple Leafs, when they finally were playing the Islanders, entered the game with a 7-1-1 record. The Los Angeles Kings come to town with a 6-3 record. And then you get the Minnesota Wild, who have not lost under a roof in regulation in 2022 yet, have gone 7-1-1. Their only loss this year was to St. Louis outdoors. So not only do we have the soft goals, not only do we have the 55 minutes or 50 minutes of game time when they should be playing 60, we're playing against teams that are on hot streaks. And if the Islanders are not bringing their A game, it's already over. And we saw that last night with Minnesota. Minnesota gets a 2-goal lead, and look out. Now the Islanders are back to that clawing their way, trying to play that whole underdog scenario, which is not going to work this year because the teams are now ready for this Islander squad. Michael brought up a quick question here. Is it the grind of the last few years taking a toll? I'm going to go no. I think there's just enough of a break right now for this team. They should be ready to go and ready to play at this point. Gary, what are your thoughts? Is this team not necessarily, we know they're getting older, but is this team tired because of the grind?
No, I don't think so at all. Professional athletes, they're used to the grind. They've had a lot more breaks than other teams have, but no, I don't think that's a cop out reason or anything like that. They show the energy. Whether it's brain farts or whatever, they're just not doing the right things in the first few minutes of a game. I know Kimmy was sitting behind me, and I can feel the growling, on my
You
neck.
feel the heat.
Oh,
you can
God.
feel the heat. Yes.
It was blue flames coming out of her. But yeah, I mean, I don't think that this team, despite what's going on, despite the record, despite all the trials and tribulations that they've had to deal with over the past 2 months, is incapable of running a streak and doing it on the road. It's just, I think there has to be, as Ross Geller would say, a little bit of a pivot with this team, and a little bit of a structure change, or maybe a slight bit of deviation from the Barry norm. I think that's what they need. Granted, when Barry puts out line 4 to start the game, there's energy, whatever, but that energy has to continue when lines 2 and 1 and 3 come out with it. When this team has energy, this team plays well. But when the engine is in fourth gear, but you're not revving that engine, that's when they slip.
Bill, I'm going to go to you real quick because I think I was listening to your podcast again. You had mentioned something, I think, about JG Pajot possibly being injured, and because we know he's had a slow start as well. I thought the same thing about Kyle Palmieri. Maybe Varlamov is still playing through an injury. Could this team really be more hurt than we realize?
It's possible. I mean, look, it's an 82-game season. There is not, by the time you get to now, we're at the end of January, beginning of February, by the time you get here, nobody's 100%. I mean, the 82-game season is a grind, and yes, this is an older team, but, I think injuries could be part of the reason for some of the slow starts of these players, but when push comes to shove, they've got to produce or they should the lineup. And, I think there's one other factor. I still think this team misses Nick Leddy. And the reason I say that is that Noah Dobson has sort of stepped up and taken on a bigger role, but as of now, Dobson is still really the only moving defenseman on this roster. Nick Leddy hasn't really been replaced. I think Robin Salo will be able to fill that role in a year or two consistently, but he's still making a lot of those, young rookie mistakes. And those breakdowns, when you're trying to win 2-1 and 3-2, you can't afford too many of those. There's very little margin for error. So replacing Nick Leddy with Zdeno Chara in the lineup, nothing against Chara. And I think he's played better after the first 10 games when he was sort of adjusting to the Islanders and everything else. But he doesn't have the same skill set as Nick Leddy. And the Islanders, I still think, need another more experienced puck-moving defenseman to sort of get back to that transition game that helped them so much in the last 2 years when they went to the conference final.
Kimmy, give me your thoughts.
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. That's the one thing about Nick Leddy I really liked, is that he got the puck, he turned on the wheels, and he entered the zone. One thing I notice a lot about this team is that we keep doing chip and chase, but we don't have speed. The only one that could possibly, has the speed to catch up is probably like Barzell or even a Pajot. Like, how many times we're on a power play and we chip it into the zone, and I'm going like, why? We have the extra man. We should enter and just shoot at the net. But it's been difficult, honestly. Like, losing, especially when we got rid of a guy like Devon Taves and he's killing it on the Avalanche. It's been hard with adjustment with this new team. Obviously, a lot has happened in this first half of the season with us. When it comes to Pajot, yeah, I've noticed even my past few games, I've said it silently to myself that I'm surprised he's not producing as much. Obviously, in the offseason, he had that surgery. I don't know if that's still bothering him. I think he played really hard last night. I think he did a good job. Just haven't seen the same sort of production, I guess, from him. Palmieri, I don't know how to feel about Palmieri right now because he just came back from the injury. Like, a lot of people are like, "Oh, get him off. He's -12." Like, I'm like, he's had 2 games since he's come back, and one of those games was a full team collapse where no one wanted to play. So I'm still like trying to see how I feel about Palmieri. Obviously, though, there were some moments where he, like, just even like puck battles where he just couldn't win them. I don't know if but Varley, with goaltending like Varlamov, we're wondering if he's still hurt. He's always had the nagging groin injury. I mean, we knew this even when we traded for him. Like, we knew he had this problem going in. He's always going to have that, which is why I'm saying, like, I don't see why it's such a sin to put Sorokin in more than one game at a time. Like, stop the back and forth. Put make it where whoever's doing well, whoever's hot, keep them playing. And I think that guy, and I think everyone will agree with me, where our number one is Sorokin. Nothing against Varley. Like, a lot of people blame Varlamov for our games, but usually he doesn't have a team that's working well in front of him. Now, no goalie's going to do well when I've seen him take like 40, 50 shot games. So it's difficult with this team. Again, like we were talking about energy, like Gary said, are they going to come out with energy? And when he was talking about the flames on his neck, most of that is because sometimes I feel with this Islanders team, we have a loss of basics, passing to one another, or just puck, like handling the puck. Prime basics of hockey, I feel like we're not completing. I was next to my mom. I said, watch how many, I'm going to count how many complete passes we do. So I watched the Wild. I went 1, 2, 3, 4, right into the zone. And shot on net. I went, okay, 4. Let's see how the Islanders do. We pick up the puck. We come around. 1, fumbled it in the neutral zone, and they took it away. I said, okay, we had 1. How many times do the Islanders are not able to complete just a simple pass? How many times you saw last night, even on like the 6-on-5, we made a pass and we're fumbling with it just to keep it on our sticks. I'm like, I said to Gary, I'm like, do they have grease on their blades there? I'm like, why can no one handle the puck? Just like simple basics I'm noticing with this team that they're not able to do. And it costs us time when we're trying to claw our way back up to tie games or even get ahead. And it costs us ozone time. It costs us, ozone attacks, shots, things like that, because we fumble it at the blue line or we fumble it in the neutral zone, giving the other team a chance to attack after they just had. And I want to see them work on just simple basics of passing, because it's killing us.
By the way, I just got a comment. It's great that seeing Kimmy so PG rated, because she's definitely not PG rated when she's asking me these questions during the game.
As well, she should be, but there are other reasons why she's behaving. But you were late to the meeting, so yes, so she's behaving. So anyway, and everyone's correct here. The loss of Nick Leddy, bringing up the puck. Robin Salo is slowly getting to that. Getting to that part, but again, there's no pressure on Robin Salo to really be that next Nick Leddy right now. They just want him to get used to the NHL, and unfortunately, you're going to have to ask Adam Pelech to do it. He's not really one. Ryan Pulock would certainly help, but again, you need someone a little faster, and that's been the biggest Achilles heel. And, Kimmy's correct. The neutral zone has been a pain all season long. I was over at my friend Joe's. We were watching the same game, the same thing that Kimmy was saying a couple of games ago. There is no neutral zone. I feel like I'm in an old Star Trek movie, the neutral zone. No one's supposed to go in there. Once the Islanders go in there, they get lost. So they do need to fix that.
You do look like a Romulan, by the way.
There we go. I was waiting for that. Okay, fine. Moving on. His wife pays for the show, folks. I got to keep him on. Moving on to the next part of the section here of Isles Talk. We're going to humorously do this. Is the season over? I've been doing this with you guys now all season, but this is going to tie into water cooler talk. I'm going to be basically leading off water cooler talk because of what's going on here. For those of you who are brand new, I have always done the standings from a percentage standpoint. I don't look at the points. The points are there to create drama. That's what the NHL wants. That's what TV wants. That's how you build up the ratings. I try to take out the drama. Unfortunately for Islander fans, this is going to be a soap opera for you guys all season long. Right now, the Boston Bruins are on pace for 103 points, and it's only good for 8th place. The last spot in the wild card, and you need 103 points. The Washington Capitals are on pace for 104. Rangers and Pens are on pace for 111. Tampa and Toronto are tied for 117. And then you get the Panthers on pace for 122. And if you're not crying by now, the Carolina Panthers are on pace for 125. Boys and girls, I'm going to tell you this now. In the 12 years that I've been doing standings like this, I have never, ever seen standings this lopsided. Whether it's the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference. The Western Conference actually looks normal.
Yeah.
Okay, you've got a couple of teams down in 10th place right now. They're on pace for 94. That's a normal NHL. Okay? You're looking at Boston with 103 points, and to Gary's credit, what he said about the Islanders going on a winning streak, the Islanders are currently on pace for 80. Now, the reason why I do the percentage is that it gives me an easier time eliminating teams from the playoffs pretty much by game 41. Okay? I normally don't eliminate teams 9 and 10 until about after the trade deadline. Okay? But to Gary's credit, the Islanders still have 4 games in hand to get to 41. They have 5 games in hand of the Boston Bruins. if the Islanders want to make, or let me rephrase that, if the Islanders want to stay alive in this playoff hunt, they basically need to go 3-0-1 over the next 5 games. Would be better if they went 4-0-1. And their opponents are Ottawa, Seattle, then it's Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, and then Buffalo. If there was ever a time for a winning streak in regulation, get those 2 points, it's now. Because I'll tell you right now, folks, I have made so much money in terms of dinners from Ranger fans, from Flyer fans, when I tell you that I can eliminate these teams, by mid-February. Okay? My family, who are Ranger fans, they still owe me dinners. They're not giving it to me. Okay? I promise you, if the Islanders don't get above the NHL 500 by game 41, they're going to be eliminated by Valentine's Day. And I'm only extending it that far because of the All-Star break and that little break in between. You're going to be asking the Islanders to basically go on an absolute tear for the rest of the season, just to catch up to Boston. Joe brought up a good point before. I posted it before. The Islanders have to go basically 65%, and literally Boston's going to be floating. Any kind of a 3-game losing streak, the Islanders season is done. That's it. I know you guys think I'm the optimist, okay?
Normally you are.
I'm pretty optimistic the Islanders are going to have a really tough time making the playoffs this year. Okay. Now, are the Islanders out of the playoff race? No, they're not. I'm still going to give them the credit where credit is due until otherwise. But am I looking ahead to next season? Yes, I am. And the rest of you better be excited as well, because I'm going to bring up this little section right here for all of us to view. Okay? See that little highlight right there, boys and girls? That's just under $14 million in cap space for next season. Okay? Now, if the NHL and the NHL Players Association approve that $1 million inflation increase, because that's exactly what it is, the Islanders are going to have just under $15 million to spend this summer. Okay, so Lou's kind of giving you a hint as to what this season's going to turn out to be. Now, I have been told that if the Islanders get to within 10 or 12 points, say, whether it be the Caps or Boston, Lou will make a move. Okay, but right now, if you play the points, you're looking at a 21-point difference between the Caps and the Islanders. If the Islanders get to within 10 points of the Capitals, let's have some fun, by the trade deadline, Lou will be a buyer. Now, for those of you, any questions, comments, concerns on the percentages? Gary, your thoughts?
You've been pretty. I mean, you've been talking about it all along, and
I've never seen a span like this.
No. It like I said, we talked about it a few weeks ago, and you said teams are due for, a
pullback,
and they haven't gotten it. Carolina hasn't slowed down. Neither is Florida. I think they scored 5 goals in the first period tonight, I think, or something like that. I thought I saw something come up on my Twitter feed. Florida is just amazing. They're relentless.
Folks, let me be very clear about this. The Islanders are the last team not eliminated out of the. Oh, look at you. Oh, good. We wanted the Blue Jackets to lose, so that's a good thing. We don't care
But
about the
my
Panthers.
goodness. 7 goals
Yeah.
on 25 shots.
Yeah.
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 But they've given up 4.
Very true.
The Islanders are the last team to be eliminated from the playoffs, and we're only talking, hopefully, mid-February. It's never happened. And I'll tell you right now, the two teams that are probably I'll be very careful with, Boston and Washington. Why? They're not going anywhere. Boston has basically supplanted themselves in 4th place. They know they're going to have the Panthers. The Capitals, unless the Rangers and Penguins drop, they get Carolina. Somewhere in there. I would not be shocked if both Boston and Washington were big-time buyers. They get a little tougher, and they're going to make the Panthers and Carolina's lives a living mess come playoff time. All the winning that the Panthers and the Carolina have been doing, it may not mean anything if, the Caps and Boston steal one. I can't wait for that. But getting back to the Islanders, I've already been told that if they can make it close, Lou will be a buyer because he's got the room to do it. So that also goes into the next section here. Gil, do you have anything to add?
I did some similar calculations on my podcast right after the holiday break. And I looked at it and said that I went back to the last full 82-game season, and you needed 98 points to make the playoffs that year. And at that point, the Islanders needed to get 2 out of every 3 points left on their schedule to get to 98 points. Now, based on the numbers now, they may need to get more than 98, but they haven't been keeping that pace since the holiday break. There is precious little room for error at this point. And excuse me, even just this 2-game losing streak, really detrimental to their chances. And yeah, they really need to go on one of those like 7-1-2 runs. They really need to do it. They need to do it soon, or else you don't need to rebuild, but you need to retool for next year if you can't get going pretty quick.
What a beautiful segue that is, Gil, because I'm going to tell you guys a little bit what's going on for the rest of this season. Through another little birdie, I've been asked, please don't shoot the messenger. There is a reason why the younger guys like Bellows and Wahlstrom haven't been playing consistently. One of those reasons is the Islanders, they're not prepping for this season, to be over, but they are looking ahead to next season. And they're not so concerned with Wahlstrom and Bellows in the sense that they're letting them develop. Same thing with Dobson, same thing with Salo. They're younger players. They're going to get their time. They're going to learn the right way of playing hockey. The Islanders are not concerned with the younger players scoring goals. Okay? I know the fans are, as rightly they should. But you have to remember, some of these older players have longer contracts. The Islanders need to see what Kyle Palmieri can do, what J.G. Pageau can do, what Josh Bailey can do, what Scott Mayfield can do. Hint, 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 hint. Okay? I've also been told, don't worry about Varlamov getting traded.
Really?
Unless Lou is absolutely blown out of the water with a trade, you could probably expect Varlamov to be here for at least this entire season.
Okay.
And the reason why is because the Islanders now have close to $15 million in cap space. The Islanders are probably just going to do a simple retool, not a massive restructure. They certainly don't need a rebuild. They're not going to tear everything down. And for those of you who, for some strange reason, have had thoughts of Barry Trotz being removed, not likely. I mean, a 13-game road trip to start the season, losing players to COVID, basically playing with an AHL team for about 5 games, 6 games, and his reluctance to play the kids because he's putting the guys who aren't scoring in the spotlight. Think about it. Okay? He's trying to put the pressure on the guys. He's not favoring the old guys over the young guys. It's the realization, folks, that the Islanders are probably going to be eliminated by Valentine's Day. And the Islanders are basically like to the older players, get moving. Exactly what Kimmy said. Get moving, get your system together, and let's see what you guys can do. Okay? Barry's not going anywhere. And for those of you complaining about Josh Bailey being on Matt Barzal's line, I think this is the 3rd time in a row on this show that I have said the reason why Josh Bailey is
Kimmy.
on.
Listen,
the
Kimmy.
reason. I'm sorry, Kim. I didn't know this. I didn't know about this family feud. The reason why Josh Bailey is on Matt Barzal's line is because Matt Barzal wants Josh Bailey on his line.
Period.
Let me add to that, Kimmy. For this year, Josh Bailey will probably remain on Matt Barzal's line because Matt Barzal wants Josh Bailey. Okay?
Yeah, understand.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now,
if you say another word at UBS, Claire is going to beat you up.
I'm gonna make sure she's mad. But
I want
it's-
money for that.
Here's the thing, like I'm not
Go
as
ahead,
opposed
Kimmy.
to it. And I'm not as opposed to it.
I know you are.
You know, Barzal said he likes having, you know, we're talking about chemistry, how important chemistry is to lines. Like, we didn't have Casey Cizikas last game, and I thought the 4th line was a mess. Like, they put in Parise because he's a Cizikas-like player, but he was not Cizikas. And that line fell apart, in my opinion. Like, just, we talk about chemistry, and Matt Barzal and Bailey, they have chemistry. And I understand that. You know, Matt Barzal's like, I want that consistency. You know, it's hard. You know, I can play with everybody. You know, I feel like that's like saving his ass a little, but he wants someone who has chemistry with him, and I get that. But, you know, we're talking about the older guys, you know, you step up, you know, step to the plate, you know, score goals. We need you to step up and show what you can do. But that's where the psychology gets mixed up with me because, yeah, we're a team that wants to make it before Valentine's Day. But then you have the young kids scoring, making it happen. You know, I feel like that's more shock in the face. The older guys, like, I'm going to replace you with the young kids if you don't get in shape, if you don't start playing. That's where the psychology gets mixed up with me. Like, why are we punishing them for scoring, for doing what, you know, they're finally getting into, they're getting confidence. I've seen Salo gain a little bit, but like, they're finally getting confidence. They're finally getting in there. They're scoring goals when we damn need them. Wallstrom in the shootout. Wallstrom last game getting us closer within 4 minutes. You know, Bellows even at times. And then we put in older guys who aren't getting us the points and goals that we need to win games. We need points. I don't like, I know, like, oh, we want to put the guys in, show them off, you know, trade deadline. But then the psychology for the younger guys gets so screwed up. I work my hardest. I get what we need to win games, and they get punished for it. And that's where fans are mad. And that's where I get it from fans. But I also understand, you know, like, and you have to put, you know, they says, oh, we're equal in how we treat our players, but no, you're not. Wallstrom, has he had inconsistency? Yes. I 100% agree he's been inconsistent. You know, we talked about passing, flubbing the puck. Yes, he's absolutely done that. And I've seen it, and I'm like, oh, Wally, like, you got to start rolling here. But I've seen the same thing from Palmieri. You know, I've seen the same thing from so many of just regular players on the ice. Sorry, but I've sort of seen that like hesitation from Josh Bailey. I've seen that hesitation, that goal, the wide open net against the Capitals. I'm sorry, that still haunts my dreams. It still haunts the dreams. So, you know, sometimes Brock Nelson can sit back a little. He sat Bo. I'll give him credit. He sat Bo when he wasn't playing, you know, at his utmost. But even like a JG, sometimes I'm like, where is he? Where is he going? Like, it's just, it feels like it's tilted. I guess it's a new perspective for me for seeing they want to get those guys out. They want to see more production from the older guys to step up like the younger guys have. But like, if we're in a playoff race and we want playoffs, play the younger guys who are scoring for us and getting us points and getting us closer.
I could even take a step further. It's not even just scoring; it's shooting the darn puck.
Oh my God, yes.
Oliver
Go
Wolf
ahead, Gil.
has played about 8 or 9 less games than a lot of the other players. He's second on the team or first in the team in shots on goal. And now Noah Dobson is in the top 2 or 3 on this team in shots on goal. And when you think about the slow start he had offensively, most of that in the last 15, 20 games. Bellows, one thing about Bellows, he's not afraid to shoot the puck. And the younger guys, the thing is that what Barry Trotz wants to see from the younger guys is what they do when they don't have the puck a lot of the time. But the older guys have to just put the puck on net. I mean, the old cliche, Wayne Gretzky, you don't score on 100% of the shots you don't take. And it's a message that this team hasn't learned enough yet and has to learn if they're going to make a run.
Very good, valid point.
Is it more about scoring, or is it more about the defense not playing the way they're supposed to generate the offense?
Well, I mean, you go back to the transition game, and I talked about Letty, and then look, you're missing one of your top 2 defensemen now for 10 weeks. So, and again, you know, you've got a lot of guys who have similar kind of skill sets in the sense that they're not transition guys, they're not puck moving guys, and they're not the best passers. They're great defensively. I mean, look at what Scotty Mayfield has done over the last few weeks in that he's played more offensive minded than he's ever done in his career. And he's actually done pretty well at it at times, but there aren't enough guys to help create that transition right now. And it's hurting this team.
Yep. Joe wrote in, if Belmont wasn't opening, would Bettman have shut the team down 4 games earlier? Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yeah. There's no doubt about it. For all my people in here, questions, comments, concerns, water cooler talk. It's your turn real quick. Any other comments, questions, concerns? You guys come on in. So, yes, for Islander fans, the spotlight is going to be on the older players. Don't worry about the younger players. They're probably going to be here next year. We're going to find out which older players are not. Okay. Root for your team. They're still in a playoff hunt. When they're not in a playoff hunt, we'll talk about it then. Have a little more faith in Lou because he's already prepping for next season, especially when you have $15 million ready to go. When Lou has the team ready, Barry Trotz will be ready. And I'll tell you right now, I can't wait to see a Bellows, Pajot, and Wallstrom line next season, because that line will probably be the best third line and the best two-way game that those young players will have ever played. Because I think we're just missing it. They're growing pains from the younger kids right now. They learn to play the game and score. That's what I'm going to be excited about. I'm going to be excited to see Robin Salo carry that puck up like we've seen with Devon Tays. I'm looking forward to seeing what forward gets to play with Matt Barzell next season, because I don't think it'll be Josh Bailey. So I also think Grant Hutton, I know. Grant Hutton is going to be the 7th defenseman. I don't see Sebastian Aho here next year.
No.
Okay? No. I really like Grant Hutton. So far, so good with him. For now, Islander fans, enjoy UBS Arena. Go as often as possible. Enjoy Zdeno Chara. Enjoy Zach. Enjoy Zach Parisi. Okay? Enjoy the team that you have. Atta girl. Atta girl. I've also been told that any of the free agents, it'll be up to them if they want to go for a Stanley Cup. It's up to them. If they want to leave, they'll be traded. If they don't want to leave, they won't be traded. Lou is now back in that advantage. He's in that healthy cap area. This is what we've been waiting for when you let go of Boychuk and Ladd, and this opens up a whole new season for the Islanders. So for me, if the Islanders can get anywhere over 90 points this season, 9th place finish, I'm okay with that. I'll take a mid first round pick in this year's draft and $15 million in healthy cap space. Yes, please. So for those of you wondering about the young players, don't worry about it. They're learning the game. They're going to do really well. They'll probably get more time as the season goes on, as they should. But for now, stay the course. Let's see what they can do over the next 5 or 6 games. Maybe they can hang on. Gil, I want to thank you for coming on. Where can fans find you?
Locked On Islanders podcast, wherever you get podcasts. And you can follow me on Twitter at Ice Wars NYR VSNYI, and also at Locked On Isles.
Kimmy, where can they find you?
Okay.
Everywhere.
Wow, okay. But find me on Twitter at IslesGirl3 or my YouTube at IslesGirl3. I'm actually doing a podcast tonight at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
Doing my own podcast, Kim and the Crease. I'm a passionate Islanders fan. Love talking about this team. And again, thank you, Paul, so much for letting me on.
You're welcome, dear, anytime. And Gary?
Well, I'm actually announcing on the show tonight. I actually told Paul earlier. For the past 7.5 years, I was part of a group of guys on WGBB, and I'm actually going to stop doing that broadcast. Just a little bit too much. John, my partner, my radio partner, as everybody may know, he not only lost his mother on Christmas Day, he lost his brother about 2.5 weeks later. And right now he's in a interesting transition period where he's basically going back and forth between Buffalo and New York. We don't know what his situation is going to be, where he's going to be living or whatever. So right now it's tough for him to do a show, and it's tough for me even to do a show. So I'm going to be stepping back from that. And I will be probably spending more time, unfortunately, with Mr. Kreischer, whether he likes it or not.
Yeah.
I get credit for that because I started this whole thing, so I do get the opportunity to jump back in. But my Twitter handle right now is GHardingWGBB, but I'm going to actually change it probably in the next day or so. But again, I'm out on Twitter, and like I said, I'm a faithful servant of this community, and I'm sure John will jump on too as he gets his opportunity, and we'll definitely get involved more in this area. Maybe we may even start a podcast of our own. We'll see, and maybe Kimmy might drag me on hers.
So I want to thank you guys for coming on. It's been a lot of fun. Guys, you can follow me on Twitter at P_Kreischer. Don't forget to follow Isles Talk on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Hit that like and subscribe button. We should be here sometime next week. I'll let you know who the guests are. And once again, keep your chin up. Let everything unfold. And honestly, start looking towards next year because it's going to look a little brighter than this year. And don't worry about the kids. They're going to get their time, especially after the trade deadline. So let the old farts do their thing. It's going to happen. And let's go Islanders, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.